Welcome back, everybody, to episode 3 of Be Bold, Go Bold with Coach K and myself, Raphael and Coach, we are officially 15 days away from the preseason beginning, but this weather doesn't really want to cooperate with us right now. How's the team feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean it's what comes with living in our great country, right? It's something that we've had to deal with for a number of years, and we've always found a way to combat it. We were outside for the first time this past Sunday over at York University, which was great. So able to minimize the disappointment of the constant weather changes a little bit, anyways. So, but yeah, Raphael, it was great to be outside again. It was great to be, out in the open space and given an opportunity for everybody to stretch it out a little bit with some of their arm work and got to work on some system work, a little bit of bunt defense, and we'll ease our way into some first and third stuff. But yeah, it was great. It was great to be out there, and it was just great to be back in the hood. Great to be back in the NT area. There comes a lot of pride to playing for who we do and the area that we play for and the association that we play for. So it was back to being in the backyard of North Toronto. So it was great. Yeah, it was great, and the kids are looking great, and yeah, they're excited that we're just around the corner to some really meaningful stuff.
For sure. And I am glad that you touched on that because we've been cooped up inside for a while now, batting cages, turf workouts, all that. But like you mentioned, this week you guys finally hit the field, first outdoor practice of the season. And there's got to be something different about feeling, the dirt under your cleats, the sky above you. Did you feel an energy shift from the team there, knowing that the season is getting closer and closer?
Big time, big time. The engagement just kicks up, tenfold, and the deeper conversations about what it takes to be successful, and a little bit more finer detail to what we're trying to achieve between the lines. And it's just great to see a bunch of guys that are working together, all pulling the strings together and have a common goal. And we've talked about that over the first couple of episodes, obviously, that common goal of what we're trying to achieve. And when you get out there, when you feel it, when you see it, it just, yeah, it inspires you, and it just brings a totally different mindset. And yeah, we're just, we're excited. And I think this has probably been one of the best off seasons that I've been a part of with any program, just in regards to their preparation and where we are, where we stand, the injury report and what that looks like coming out of the off season. So there's a lot of positives, and there's a lot of optimism in our circle, and we're starting to have those necessary conversations that are going to take us to where we want to go.
For sure. And I'm glad you mentioned also that common goal because, like we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, we got a lot of dogs on the team and everybody's hungry. You mentioned right before this call now that you guys have a full pound, quote unquote. So we talked about them a little bit last week, but I want to hear more about this pound. Let me hear more about these guys. And I say we start off with some of the young guns. Tell me a little bit about Aaron Duck, the recent recruit from the 16U team.
Yeah, Aaron has been a breath of fresh air to our program. One of the big traits that we look for is guys that just want to genuinely get better, and want to be coached up, and believe that there's still a ton of growth in their game. And Aaron is the epitome of that. And he's come in, and he understands what his deficiencies are. He understands that he can definitely master the role of captain on the field. In my opinion, the captain of the field is the guy behind the plate. It is the guy receiving, it is the guy calling the game, it is the guy that can literally see from the best vantage point of our game. And that's from back there. And Aaron understands that. Um, Aaron had a lot of room to grow coming into this year on the offensive side of the ball. He's embraced every bit of development that's come his way on that front. And we've seen leaps and bounds. I would say some of the biggest improvements in regards to approach, in regards to mechanics, um, and just in regards to um, sheer athleticism. Now he came in, he wasn't he was definitely on the lower tier, I would say, of athleticism. And you have to be athletic back there. You got to have an ability to go get baseballs, and you got to have the ability to move quick. And again, he understood that, got in the gym, worked his butt off, and you can see it. You just look at him. If you haven't seen him in 6 months, he looks like a totally different kid. So incredibly hard worker, fits the identity of the position, and he's somebody that is just an absolute, you know, dirt bag, and that's in the most complimentary form for Aaron. So we're excited about Aaron. Again, he, as you mentioned, Raphael has come from our 16U elite program, so he's an internal talent that we've been happy to develop over the number of years in our elite system, and we expect big things from him. And yeah, he's fired up. You can see the intensity in his eyes. You can see the excitement because he knows that he's playing with a legit club, with a legit chance to do big things, and that just fires him up even more.
For sure. And, I'm sure he wants to do more as well for the team. But you mentioned that he came up from the 16U team, but that does make me curious. Are there different expectations from homegrown talent as opposed to outside recruits?
I think so. We have a winning standard inside our building, our organization, um, and specifically with our elite program. We have very high standards, and it starts from the top. Um, you know, Jim Lisser, who isn't really involved in the program as much anymore, but was really one of the pioneers of NT Elite Baseball. Um, Jim is one of the big reasons why I'm here at North Toronto, and he fostered, what it is today. It's bringing in great people. It's bringing in people that come from really, really strong baseball backgrounds. It's people that are great communicators, and have the ability to elevate everybody around them. And that was Jim's idea coming in. And then, as Jim kind of started to depart, Marnina Cernick came into the fold, and she's done a tremendous job as our VP of Elite, and she's held that standard that Jim kind of fostered and started here. Dean Cohen is another one that still does a little bit of work with North Toronto baseball, still on the board here with North Toronto, a former coach of North Toronto's 18U elite program. So I have a lot of respect for Dean. I talked to Dean a little bit. I've known him very well. I have a lot of roots here, and it's one of the reasons why I came here, because the standard is high, and we want to do great things for the game, and we want to do great things for our athletes. And yeah, the standard is different here, and I think that's why it really excited me to come here. And I think that's why we have the players that we do. We have the personnel that we do. We have the support system that we do. It's because of the standard that was set from the very beginning in the inception of this elite program. And it's exciting. And that's why I continue to preach, on this platform. There are so many good things happening in North Toronto. If you're not a part of it, you need to be a part of it. And yeah, it's one of the gold standards for high performance baseball in the province of Ontario. I truly believe that.
Love it. And speaking of guys who have grown up in the system, somebody we've touched upon in the past, but a physically strong kid getting ready for the season. Tell me a little bit about Marcus Liu.
You hit it on the head. You hit it on the head. Marcus Liu is one of the just raw, strong kids on this team. Just raw strength. It's just a matter now of bringing that capability out of him. This game is about controlled aggression, um, and I truly believe that. And Marcus needs to realize, we got to go at a quicker pace. We got to deliver to the plate quicker. We need to get a little bit more violent at the dish. When we're stepping in the box, and we have that barrel in our hand, and we want to do damage. He just needs to have a little bit more of that fire in him, and I think he has it. I truly do. It's just a matter of bringing it out in a controlled aggression in a game environment. And we're doing our best, and I know that he's doing his best to work with us, to get to his full capability. And he's going to get there. We've seen a lot of progress with Marcus over the off season, and he was one of our leaders in the fall in plate appearances. We've given him a lot of opportunity. This guy is like a magnet though in the box. Like this guy gets hit like every other at bat. Like I don't know why. He's just on top of the plate. He just finds a way to get on base, right? And there's a role for that. That plays a really big role in a program. And he crossed the plate a ton of times in the fall because of his ability to get on. And that's going to be really, really valuable as we get into some important baseball here through the season. But I'm a big fan of Marcus. He treats this with high importance. His family, quickly, just quick story through the selection process. The one thing I was worried about with Marcus, and it was coming from a different environment, the 16U elites to the 18U. It was just a different culture, different environment, and I was worried a little bit. I was worried about the transition for Marcus, and I said to him, and his mom was standing beside him, and I said, are you ready for this? We're not gonna baby you here. We're gonna hold you accountable. We're gonna do all the things that are just gonna make you a better ball player and a better person. And then, you know, his mom cuts me off, and she says something along the lines of, "What do you think? I baby him?" And it was just kind of like this wholehearted, like it was funny. It was, I had to laugh in the moment. And yeah, there's just a lot of high expectations for Marcus in his household, as there should be. He's got a lot of upside, not just on the ball diamond, but in his day to day. And he's a good kid, and he's got a great future ahead of him. But we got a lot of time to think about that. He's going to have a really good year this year. We're excited about his development, and I expect Marcus not just to want to be a contributor, but to be a big contributor this year. Even though he's obviously one of the younger guys in this program, I expect a lot from Marcus.
For sure. And I'm sure when his mom said that to you, that also gave you some reassurance of the talent that he's going to bring to the team.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. He's going to bring the discipline. He's going to bring the coachability. Coachability is big. I've said it many times on this platform, right? Yeah, that's important. I think when you can bring the parent into the process a little bit of selecting the player, really important. Because when you're investing in somebody for an entire year, you're not just investing in the player, you're investing in the parent, you're investing in the family. That's all encompassing. So to hear that, really important, because at the end of the day, you need support from their support system, because somebody needs to reinforce what we're saying. Because at the end of the day, we're not with them 24/7. We're not with them day in, day out, but they are. And they need to reinforce the message that we're giving, and what our culture is and what we're trying to instill on the day to day in our program. So that was really important, for sure.
Awesome. And one thing that you briefly touched on was that he came from a different environment. But most of the guys we talked about here grew up in the system. They've been with the team a couple years. But I want to hear about something who it's his second year with the team, but he came from a very different environment, first baseman and catcher. Tell me a little bit about Jack Scott.
Yeah. Um, Jack Scott is somebody that I've had a lot of frank discussions with in the most positive way possible. He's somebody that I genuinely feel I can talk to, not just like a ball player, but somebody like a peer. He's wise beyond his years. When I speak to him, it feels like I'm speaking to a 30-year-old, just incredibly mature. And again, just responsible, effective communicator. Always puts himself in the best position to succeed when he gets to the ball diamond or to the facility. One of the first ones there, and one of the most attended players at an event, at a practice, a game, whatever it may be, is Jack. Incredibly dedicated to our program. And, I really enjoy having his dad at the park. He loves the game. He helps any way he can, whether it be to help score the game or whatever it may be. He just comes from a great family. And, Jack is somebody that, again, just kind of wants his footprint on the success of the group. We had the conversations last year where, maybe necessarily, he didn't play the role that he maybe wanted to at the end of the year. And, we we made goals and we made expectations for this upcoming season, not just expectations and roles for him. I think one of the big reasons why I've evolved as a coach over the last number of months, in this small window, is because of him and because of his proactive approach of coming up and, letting me know what he was thinking and how he was feeling. And that's so important. That's so important in today's day, right? We talk about mental health. We talk about understanding the athlete better. And again, I just feel like I'm a better coach today in this small window of months, because of the relationship that I've had with Jack as a player. Um, so it's been really, really healthy and beneficial for me, and I think it has for him as well. So um, he's probably, I would say, getting back to the between the lines, probably our best defensive first baseman. I think he's a defensive specialist, but he's got some pop in his bat, and I know he wants to evolve and really elevate his game on the offensive side of the ball. And just a steady guy behind the plate, calls a great game. We have a lot of trust in him. There's not a lot of action that's being signaled to him through the dugout. We have a lot of trust in Jack, and very respectful. Always shakes the official's hand before and after games, whatever the result may be, even if it wasn't in our favor. Jack is he's a pleasure for him to be a part of our program for sure.
Hmm. And I'm glad that you mentioned that your relationship with him has made you a better coach. But would you say that it's important for all athletes to have this sort of more personal relationship, not just on the field, not just about what happens on the field, but their whole lives in general with their coaches?
Yeah, I mean, I think the success of any program is communication. And that's one of the big things that I learned with somebody like Jack is, you know, you preach communication, from the leadership perspective, but sometimes you forget, to to back your words in the sense of being the best communicator that you could possibly be on your end, right?
Sure.
So, um, but yeah, it's vital. It's huge. It's the lifeblood of your program, right? I think it's the big difference between program and team. I think a team is just kind of, a bunch of athletes and some coaches that come together and just, come and play some games and, enjoy the environment of sport and just kind of go on about their day, and not really care about the end result or what you're trying to achieve. A program is very, detail, um, and detail oriented and very focused. And you have pillars, you have a plan, you have expectations. You expect a lot, not just from your players, but from the coaching staff as a whole, and every aspect of the program. So that's the big difference, and it's huge. So I would recommend, yeah, you have a good touch point, a consistent touch point with your coaching staff, letting them know about everything on your academic life, what's going on in regards to your health on a day to day, um, what those workout days in the gym look like, how you felt, and putting yourself in the best position possible to be a contributor when you are in the team environment. And that goes a long way with a coach. I really appreciate that when a player comes and, no excuses. They just come to work and they put their body in the best position possible to do that. So I got a lot of respect for those type of players. So yeah, to your question, Raphael, it's everything. It's huge. Always make sure that you're staying in close contact with your coaches, on your physical health, on your mental health, on your academics, um, because at the end of the day, they're student athletes. They're not athletes. They are student athletes. Student come first, and that's a big part of their life. And us as coaches, as much as we want to win and as much as we want to, you know, um, promote our sport, we have to make sure that we foster and support them on their academic journeys as well. And that's the number one thing.
For sure. And with that, we've talked about our first and second years, some of the developing players, but I think it's time to hear about some of the seasoned vets of the team. What do you think that Brody camp has to offer this year?
Yeah, Brody's coming off of a very exciting finish to our season last year. He played a pivotal role in, giving us a chance to win in that championship game in the national qualifier. We had Jack Rossetti start for us in that final against Etobicoke, and give him a lot of credit. He just, he had an ankle injury earlier in the tournament. Normally I think any other time of the year you're probably out for a number of weeks, but he did everything he possibly could. Like, we're talking like multiple physio sessions just to get right. And he came out, he tried to battle on the mound. He was basically throwing on one leg, and we had to take him out. He was struggling big time, and he knew that. So we had to bring somebody in to calm the waters, and somebody that just came in and pumped strikes and was going to give everything he possibly could to give us a chance. And that was Brody. Brody was ready. He was ready for the moment. No moment's too big for Brody. In the prior game, in the semifinal, he had a huge pinch run scenario where he crossed, it was either the tying or the winning run. But he came in a big spot, and again, wasn't phased, and was just really sound on the path, really intelligent. And you could see he was incredibly hyper-focused, knew everything that was going on around him in a 7-foot radius. And it was really inspiring to see. I'm expecting, again, you touched on it, somebody that's a veteran, somebody that's a leader. I have high expectations for Brody. I want him to lead with his play, but I want him to be a really positive role model in the dugout. When guys are struggling, he knows, he'll be the first to tell you he's had times where he's struggled a little bit, and sometimes it's tough to kind of temper the emotion. And he'll struggle with that at times, but I want him to be a leader on that front. I want him to be the calming influence with other guys, and, to be a bit of a sounding board, and to give a little bit of his advice, from his experience, because he's very experienced. He's been in big games. He's won EBLO championships. He's played on some of the biggest stages with his previous association with Milton. I like Brody a lot. He's got a best friend on this team in Nate. And they go hand in hand, and they really play off each other well. He's just great with his hands, just fundamentally sound in the infield, can get to any baseball, just a hard worker, one of the, as you mentioned, another one of those dogs in the pound. And it's going to be hard to tame him, because he's going to be hungrier than ever this year, and we're excited to see it.
For sure. And just tell me about that little bit of the leadership that you expect from these third-year veteran guys who have been in this situation before.
Well, again, I think the great thing about them is, they're not leading from inexperience. They're leading with a whole hell of a lot of experience. These guys have been in an elimination final at this level, at a national qualifier final at this level. It's not like at 13U they were in the final and they're going to have to translate it and transition it to 18U. No, they were in this position less than a year ago. They know what it takes to get here. And now, after learning and having a lot of reflection and discussion, they understand what it takes now to get over that hump when you get to that moment. So they need to lead from experience, but they need to lead from ability. They're great ball players. One of the reasons why we have the expectations that we have, and the pathway that we have, is because they're incredibly talented ball players, all of these veterans. So they need to lead with their play. You can talk and talk and talk and run systems and do what you want in the practice environment and talk about what you want to do in the game. But at some point, you got to deliver and you got to perform. And that's all there is to it. And that's our expectation. You've lived it all. You're now a grown man, 18U. It's time to just step up and do what you do and deliver. And I truly believe that our veterans will rise to the occasion this year and get us over that hump and get us to the end and the competitive goal that we are looking to achieve. And that's to win a national qualifier and go to Alberta and compete to be the best program in the country.
Definitely looking forward to it. And last but not least, one of those fellow veteran players, another third year, one of the other leaders on the team. I want to hear a little bit about JP Dente.
Yeah. So I try to always start baseball aside when we're talking about our guys. JP is just going to be a great contributor in society. I think JP has a really good head on his shoulders. He's somebody that you can really look up to as a teammate. He just, he kind of brings everybody together. We missed him last year in a big way from a camaraderie standpoint. He was with this team in 15, 16. He ended up, going over to another program last year, and he came back. And I think that speaks a lot to what this program is and how much it meant to him. And um, as you kind of go through, it's just like life. It's just like school, just like in your working world. You realize sometimes, you know, uh, you value the the opportunities that truly make you happy, and you want to go back to those types of environments, even though you might have to sacrifice something else in your life. It doesn't matter, because you want to go somewhere that makes you happy, and you want to do things that make you happy. And I know JP is incredibly happy being here. And yeah, he's a competitor. He's somebody that um, has developed a whole lot over the course of 2 years. And you talk about a big gamer. He's somebody that has won a lot of big games for this program back in 15 and 16U, and he's going to be expected to do that this year. Um, he's gone up on the mound against some of the best athletes in the country, and he's performed. And he just has an ability to keep guys off keel on the base path. It's hard to figure him out. And he moves really quick. For a guy that doesn't have exactly the heaviest fastball, he moves really quick to the plate, and he gets that ball to catch ASAP. And that gives us an ability to throw runners out. And that gives us, again, just another avenue to win ball games. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of trust for JP on the mound. Um, Again, excited about bringing him and his family back into the fold. Incredible family. Um, his conversation with his dad Mass and his mom were one of the highlights of my end of off season chats that I had with every player. And they were just really you could see the excitement from the family about how passionate I was and what my expectations were for JP. And um, that's, again, where you see just the support and how important that is in a program. So I welcome I welcome JP back with open arms. And again, another great communicator, and somebody that is a real joy to coach. And I'm just going to really enjoy the next number of months that we have together.
Awesome. From my experience with hearing about these guys, they just sound hungry, ready for a national championship, and I'm looking forward to following along. But before we wrap things up here, we briefly touched on it, so I just want to circle back. Weather's a little unpredictable. We're back to outdoor ball. Tell us a little bit about how players should prepare themselves for this time of the year when we're outside and things are more unpredictable than ever.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is having a plan, right? Going outside in these conditions, they can be pretty impactful on your arm, pretty impactful on your body. Um, in regards to all avenues, recovery, your post throw, stretch, everything. So making sure that you have a clear cut plan when you're going outside, and that can be anything. It doesn't have to be to a science, but you got to be regimented. You got to have an idea of what you're looking to accomplish when you go out there. And whether that's starting from 35 feet and and working your way back every 6-7 throws, and gradually stretching it out, and then coming back in and working really explosive. Yeah, just understanding what your goal is for that day and building on it, right? And trying to track it a little bit too. If you have the ability to kind of document your journey through your work, I think that's really important, and seeing the progress. And that equates to everything, and it equates to your gym work, everything. So That's the biggest thing I'd say. I'd say have a plan, and I would say layer up. It's always a hell of a lot easier to layer down than layer up. So just be prepared for all conditions. I was pretty layered up on Sunday, and I was probably looking pretty ridiculous compared to everybody else. Everybody else was in shorts, and I had gloves on, and I had a toque on, and everybody's like, "What the hell is Coach doing? What's going on here?" And yeah, I mean, I would just say, yeah, just prepare for the conditions from a from a clothing standpoint. But the biggest thing is having a real regimented plan to make sure that you have you have benchmarks, you have steps in your development path, and I think that's really important. So and the only other thing I would say, Raphael, is I think the first time we go outside, we're excited, we're revved up. So we want to go 375% and not think about the consequences after, right? You could really put yourself in a position where you could have a major setback, um, and you could be missing a chunk of the start of your short baseball season because of something that you did, irresponsibly outside in your first workout outdoors. So be really smart, understand your limitations, and again, I'll say it again, have a plan.
Love it, especially the layers part, because at the end of the day, when it gets cold, you're going to be the one
Oh yeah,
laughing.
absolutely,
100%.
absolutely. Yep.
Well, I said the same thing last week, but I think it's super safe to say that we're all very excited for the season ahead. It sounds like we got some great young talent. And to all of you at home, if you do want to follow along with the team and see how this talent progresses throughout the year, feel free to follow us on all of our socials on Instagram at North Toronto Baseball _18U_elite, on Twitter at NT Elite 18U, and right here on YouTube at Be Bold, Go Bold with Coach K. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Coach, thank you so much for your time as always. And we're looking forward to getting closer and closer to the season and to the next episode next week.
Have a great week, Raphael. We'll catch up soon.